and this is what I'm coming out to expose of what's taking place. What you're hearing is just one grant. I'm talking about there's billions of dollars that's actually available for this situation that some churches are getting, and they're being quiet about it, hush hush. And it's sad that churches are being hush hush about help that other churches can be getting, because this is a continual grant too that they're allowing us to have to provide security.
We'll discuss race and how it plays a factor, and how we didn't even talk about this topic because we were afraid.
A Black Executive Perspective.
Welcome to a Black Executive Perspective podcast, a safe space where we discuss all matters related to race, especially race in corporate America. I'm your host, Tony Tidbit.
And I'm your co-host, Chris P. Reed.
We are live at 88.7 WNHU in the University of New Haven podcast room. We want to thank them for partnering with the Black Executive Perspective podcast. Go Chargers.
We also want to shout out Code M Magazine. Remember to check out our partners at Code M Magazine, whose mission is saving the Black family by first saving the Black man. That's Code M Magazine, 2 M's, CodeMMagazine.com.
That's right. Check them out. And today we want you to check out a familiar face. Pastor Glenn Germany is here again to discuss the ongoing impact and recovery efforts at Jesus Dwelling Church following the tragic shooting incident. We'll explore the community support received, the essential ministries needed in today's churches, and the work undertaken since that incident. Additionally, we'll delve into the challenges and disappointments faced along the way, recognize those who have provided significant support, and discuss the new security funding opportunities available through FEMA, as well as the church's new mission and a focus on safer and a more resilient future. Pastor Glenn Germany, welcome back to a Black Executive Perspective podcast, my brother.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you having me once again. I don't feel like I've been going too long, but I feel like I'm at home. Thank you.
So, Pastor Germany, since you've been gone, give us a brief, overview of how has the family been and has the congregation been since we last spoke?
The family's been well. I thank everybody for their prayers that went out for my family. Everything's coming along. We're doing a lot of in-house counseling because of the lack of support that we did get. It was an opportunity for many organizations to come in and actually show care and show love. And there was a lot of lack in them areas, but to God be the glory. We're coming along well.
Well, Pastor Glenn, thanks a lot for that update, buddy, but we definitely want to hear more about what's been going on and what the future holds. So are you ready to talk about it?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's talk about it.
Okay. Before we get too deep into it, let's look and remind people who may have been under a rock of what happened in your congregation or with your congregation some months ago. So let's play that clip.
And God had chose.
Jesus!
So what you just witnessed was some harrowing video from a Facebook live stream of the church service. But for those listeners who may not have seen the video and are listening from an audio perspective, can you recount what happened at that point in time for us, Pastor Glenn, in your perspective?
Yes, it was just another normal Sunday for us. We wasn't expecting that. And it's just another day I'll proceed to be speaking life over people's life. And here a man came into the sanctuary in order to take my life. He said he was called by God to do it. He was dealing with mental issues. And by the time I really took notice of him, I was staring at the barrel of his gun.
So what has been the impact of that? Because that wasn't the only thing, and I hate the fact that that could be the end of your story, obviously on this earth, but also not just the issue that happened, but the incident that occurred afterwards or lack thereof response has cascaded into your tale as we move forward. So can you give us a little bit of that impact on your congregation and how you guys are doing now?
Yes, it was one event that exposed a lot of injustice, and it's just many areas where we just wasn't served correctly as a people, the lack of medical services that was provided at the time, the lack of police support, who actually, took a long time to get there, and then afterwards, the lack of services that was provided for us, in the healing process. It's sad to say, to be honest with you, I'm more upset right now, or the least thing I'm upset about is the young man pulling the gun out.
Wow.
I'm more upset about the aftercare than I am at a man pulling a gun. Now that's sad.
No, buddy, that is sad. And number one, I'm really sorry. You would think in these type of tragic incidents, the community will galvanize together around you, and it seems like that didn't happen. What type of support did you receive?
Oh, that's easy. None.
So one word.
So you didn't get that community outreach locally, federally as well.
None. Zero.
Nothing.
None.
Nothing.
None. No,
Wow.
it was one interview that I done that was on, I think it was CNN, that I got a phone call from a gentleman down in Florida. The name of his company is called Secure Tech Services Group. They're out of Florida. He was the one who actually said, "Look, I'm going to get you some help." One man put a whole movement in motion. And so I give big props to him for making that phone call to me and reaching out and making sure the proper people get contacted. His name was Rico Reed.
And what type of help was he able to supply?
He got me in touch with the Department of Justice. And once the Department of Justice stepped in, then the ball started rolling.
Cool. And I think that, first of all, that's a blessing. And we talk about mysterious ways. So from tragedy to triumph, let's get into what has actually transpired since then, because it's gotten way bigger than your Facebook live stream and some videos. And it's taken almost an international flavor at this point in time. So let's play a clip of something that happened on the House floor.
Tonight, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced millions of dollars in federal funding for places of worship to boost their security. The National Desk Jeff Harris explains.
That is $400 million to be exact. That money is getting added to the existing federal nonprofit security grant program to provide places of worship like synagogues, mosques, churches with additional funds to enhance their security. All they will have to do is then apply. During his announcement, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer noted that every place of worship is welcome to apply, not just those who have experienced attacks.
There are ample federal dollars, a new $400 million just passed last week, so that synagogues, mosques, churches, and other houses of worship can apply.
The funding can go towards anything security related, cameras, fences, and even personnel.
So with your church proverbially being the straw that broke the camel's back, obviously other tragedies have occurred at other places of worship, but the timing on that, your ability to speak up and speak out, and with the new FEMA funding available coming this August, how is your church planning to enhance its security and understand its role in this magnificent opportunity?
You mind if I just back you up for a second, just
Yeah.
a little bit?
Yeah.
And the word is not new funding. The word is funding that was already available. That's the
Understood.
funny thing,
Okay.
because this funding was already available. Many churches already knew about this funding that was available. And be honest with you, it's no longer 400 million, but it's actually 700 million. And that's only one grant. And this is what I'm coming out to expose of what's taking place. What you're hearing is just one grant. I'm talking about there's billions of dollars that's actually available for this situation that some churches are getting, and they're being quiet about it, hush hush. And it's sad that churches are being hush hush about help that other churches can be getting, because this is a continual grant too that they're allowing us to have to provide security, help with having people in place for security, not just having cameras, but even you having paid security. All these things, training, all these things was already in play, and now it's getting exposed by our event because the simple fact that these things been already made available, but people don't know about it, and now we're going to let churches know about it.
So just so we're clear. So number one, thanks for that. But just so we're clear, this money has been available for a while, but the majority of churches, synagogues, knew nothing about it. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. You're talking about 95% of churches don't know nothing about this money that's available. And a lot of times, the churches that do know, the lower churches, they're actually also applying, but they're not getting it. And it's a competitive grant as well. And don't get me wrong, but that's what we're going to talk about in a second about how it is going to be made available. And now the playing field is going to be made even.
Wait a minute. So let's because you just said something. So what you just said is that there's churches that applied for the grant to have
Yes.
these security measures, and
Yes.
even though the money is available, they
Yes.
didn't get access to it,
Yes.
right? And because it's a competitive grant, is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
And when you say competitive grant, like what do you mean?
Well, be honest with you, it's sad when I say competitive because it's it wasn't guaranteed that everyone would get it, and it
Mm.
was based upon circumstances and situations. But still, yet, be honest with you, it's based on the who know who and who know what. Because
Mm.
the simple fact that these little churches, we don't have the grant writers, we don't have, we don't have what we need in order for us to be able to compete with these large churches. We don't. One thing is that's very important, and it's sad, is that it's based upon language. So you got to know the certain language and terminology to use in order to get the grant. If the language on your application is lacking, you won't get it, even though you need the security the most. So, but these larger churches understand the language that is needed in order to get these grants.
Wow, wow. So just again, thank you for that. So you had somebody walk into your church, pull a gun out,
Mhm.
point it at you, and we all know the divine intervention. It didn't go off. Your deacon jumped in, and you guys were able to subdue him. Police didn't show up for 20 minutes. All right, you had to walk. I think when the police did come, one officer showed up. You
Correct.
had to help the officer put the suspect in the car, right?
Correct.
And then there was no other support that you've gotten. You've been on every media outlet and you talked about, everybody wanted to see the gun being pointed at your face.
Correct.
And they were, how did you feel? And what did you think about having a gun? But then after that died down, there has been no other support except the brother in Florida that reached out to you, Rico, if that was his name correctly, right?
Correct.
And then he's the one that, and I don't want to put words in it, I just want to be clear. He's the one that told you about the FEMA grant or the ability to be able to access his money.
Yes, he the one who made me well aware. And when I say no support, I really like me. I like to drop names, and I'm sorry, I'm like that. But look, we're pulling the woo out the sheet. I
The
mean,
rug.
we're
Yeah, we're pulling
bringing
the
it
rug
out.
out.
Right,
There
absolutely.
is a guy who actually sent us $3,000. His name was Joel. We thank him. It was someone else, another company, sent us 500. We thank them. Other than that, there was a little support of $100 here and there. It didn't go over $4,500. That's how much support we got as far as helping us to do anything in the aftermath.
Mm. So at this point in time, I realized that the one thing you didn't do was be quiet about the tragedy of the lack of response. And you weren't casting aspersions or pointing fingers, but you wanted answers. You demanded answers. And I think that your vigilance on that kind of highlighted the fact that something needs to be done. So now you're on this Don't Hide It Divided campaign. What advice do you have for churches looking to apply for grants? And have you gotten enough information now to where you want to make sure nobody ends up in your situation in the future?
Yes, and all the information at this moment that I'm speaking to you, I don't have all the information. But as we're going forward, I am being provided hands-on experience where they are walking me through it step by step. The the experience is not complete yet at this moment, but they are walking me through it. And when I'm done, I'm educated enough to understand it and grasp it, and I am going to walk everyone who I have the opportunity to walk through it. If I got to go to every church personally in the United States and do this here, I'm willing to do it.
So, number one, that's awesome, my friend. I just want to make sure that we're squared away from the grant standpoint, right? So there's money that's going to be available, which when Chuck Schumer made this announcement back in May, it was $400 million. You're saying now, because if I remember correctly, based on the gentleman in Florida connecting you, the right connections, you were able to chat with Homeland Security. You were able to chat with a bunch of other agencies to really understand the grant. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes, right now I'm on a phone call every week from this point on. I'm doing some planting with the DOJ, Department of Justice. I'm on a phone call with them, and they are connecting me personally. And this is how it's supposed to work with them. They're not allowed to promote themselves. They're not allowed to come on and say anything, but they have to do the work. So they are personally connecting me with each step, making sure that I have the people in place that are able to help, making sure that these funding. And once again, what he announced was only one grant. There is multiple grants and multiple funding for these situations. And I'm learning that based upon this situation, you can get help from many different directions. And that's what we're dealing with. Learning about the help that you can get and being ready made available that's already available.
Wow. Wow. That is awesome. And then so they're now making sure that you're able to partake and be able to get the funding that you need for your church and its security, so something like this will never happen again, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
So let me ask you this, though. Will they take away, because you said a competitive grant, are they going to make it easy for other churches, big and
Correct.
small, to be able, who may not have, language writers or grant writers, right? Because they don't have the support or the access to that. Are they going to make it easy for any church to be able to access these funds?
Yes, they're going to make it easy for every church to access these funds, and that's what we're having a big summit. And the purpose of Without Contact Youth for is we're having a big summit. It's actually going to be a monumental moment. It's going to be groundbreaking because the simple fact that what's coming in is the DOJ is coming in, Department of Justice is coming in, FEMA's coming in, Homeland Security's coming in, the FBI's coming in. The governor's coming in, the lieutenant governor's coming in, the mayors are coming in, the chief of police are coming in. All these different, the Senate, governor, all these are all coming into the church, along with crazy media. This media explosion is going to be major. Then you got 100 different pastors from 100 different 100 pastors from 100 different churches. They are coming in. And I just limit it to 100 pastors at this time, just so it don't go too far out of hand. But they are going to have the people speak to us and explain to us and tell us where the funding is, how to get the funding, who we can contact to get help with the grant writing aspect of it. They're supposed to lay everything out in plain English so we can be able to compete with the other larger churches that are getting funding that is not, doing. One second, I just gotta say this. One of the biggest ministries I feel that's missing in the church is the support of the smaller churches.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how in the world that we can take millions of dollars over to overseas and say we're helping the world, where you don't want to help another church because they don't believe in your doctrine or the exact thing what you believe. It just amazes me that we believe, all of us believe that Jesus is Lord. That's what makes us Christians or makes us saved. But yet it's like we bigger over little issues when there's a greater issue at stake. And here you're willing to go feed the world who don't even believe in Jesus, who don't even believe in your Savior, but you're making sure that they have things, but you're forgetting to take care of your own brothers and sisters in the faith. That just blows my mind. Christ said, do good unto all men, especially those of the household of faith. So how can you look past issues like this and continue to go do worldly missions where you're missing the true understanding and what Christ came to do? He came to gather the people of God first. And then he actually said, the dogs can eat from the crumbs that fall from the children's table. So the focus is the people of God. But that's a ministry that's lacking in the church today. Churches taking care of other churches.
I think that, obviously you've been open to take up this mantle. Like, you're not afraid at all to speak your mind and represent your faith and your conviction. My question to you, interestingly enough, is I'm assuming from our previous conversation, nothing could have told you when you was a young man that you'd be preaching the gospel, right? And then you got to preaching the gospel and you're doing the best you can, and you and your brother and your deacons and all that, putting things together for folks. How do you feel like God has prepared you for this next chapter? And what do you see as your calling? Because this is another call. You got your first call. Now he done called you on the cell phone, right? The first call was probably on the rotary. He done called you on the cell phone. So now with this calling to take up this mission to enrich and empower other churches, other places of worship through these opportunities that the government has for you guys, how do you feel like you're embracing that role? And where do you see yourself in the future as this ambassador?
Right now, I believe it or not, and it's sad that people would be like, really? But truly, I thank God for where I was called. I was called from a youth before I actually started, running away from the calling. I
Mhm,
landed in prison, no different than Jonah landing on a boat trying to run.
mhm,
I was
mhm.
in prison, but I thank God that I received my calling while I took here to my calling while I was in prison, because it's like being in the army. The army don't train you in the city because they know all the distractions. They take you somewhere, take you away, and they train you. And so that's what happened to me. Prison was a place where I can hear from God, where I can actually have the time to be away from distractions, family, cares of the world, and just focus. And I was actually, for me, real quick, 12 years of learning the gospel, and being a pastor in prison. I actually would study the Bible 7, 8 hours a day, every day, teach 3 Bible studies every day. So no, that's like uh, uh, um on steroids, what I'm saying?
Right,
Bible
right,
learning on steroids.
right.
And so it really got me equipped for what God was calling me into. And so I didn't learn from the churches. I didn't learn under all this hypocrisy. I didn't learn under, seeing how the division of churches is. I learned in a place where we didn't care what denomination you was. We just wanted to help each other. And that's the type of gospel I grew up under. So now to come home and see all this going on, it just blows my mind of the way the churches is towards one another. That just even if we don't agree, there is something we do agree on, and let's focus on what we do agree on, and let's get this work done.
So with him being a deliverer and a promise keeper, do you never think why you, or are you thinking why not me?
Why not me?
Okay, all right.
I am no, seriously. The reason why, and to be honest with you, is
Mhm,
because I understand my relationship that I have with God. And I
mhm.
understand, where he brought me from and where he brought me through. And I understand everything he put in me. And with everything that he put in me, once again, I'm talking about somebody who fasts, periodically, a lot of times, 7 days straight, no food, no water, just seeking God. No outside and nothing to bother me. People like, how you go 7 days without eating or drinking? 7 days before God was easy for me. I did it a couple times, where I always fast before God, always prayed before God, I stayed in his presence, always in the word of God, just learning. And so the question is, he was equipping me. I didn't know he was equipping me, but he was getting me ready for what it is that I was going to face when I came home. And now that, for a minute he had me stored away in this here small community, small church, now he elevated me to this plateau. And now he called me into, this didn't just happen by chance. This happened by God. Our church was called for this issue, and this happened, by the hand of God. And now I'm taking hold of it and I'm running with it and I'm doing the work that God will want me to do, securing his churches, helping his people, and uniting the body of Christ. Let's remove these differences and let's come together.
Well, here's the thing, though, my brother. And again, you're a man of God, and rightfully you're frustrated, rightfully so, right? The things that you went through, your congregation went through, your family, your daughter, right? The mental stress, and then the stories you just got finished telling, okay? In terms of, we're all supposed to be out trying to help one another, but then not everybody, shows up the way they're supposed to show up, right? Here's the thing, though. Guess what? Now you have that opportunity to show up like
That's right.
you're supposed to show up, right?
That's
God
right.
gave you that now. So, right now, to be honest, it's about now moving forward. It's about you, just what you just got finished talking about your ability now. God, see this, and I agree with you 100%. You couldn't make this up, okay? And if
Right.
you look back at this, where, a couple of months ago, somebody walked in your church and put a gun in your face, and the things that you went to, but now the opportunity for you to help so many other individuals, so many churches across this country, regardless of the denomination that they fall under. That's a huge blessing. And now, and you were talking earlier, so just want to make sure we're clear, because you were saying FEMA and the DOJ and the FBI and the governor and the senator and the police chief and 100 pastors from churches, they're all going to get together. Where are they going to get together at? They're going to get together where?
They're all getting together at my church.
At your
It,
church. At
it's
your
groundbreaking.
church. Okay? So think
Yeah.
about that though. It's been a tough journey, don't get me wrong. and you have every right to be frustrated, right? Nobody can take that away from you. But look
Right.
where it's ending, and look how many more people that you're going to be able to touch, help, and God willing, they'll never be in the situation that you're in. So that right there, my friend, that's a huge blessing. You said everybody's coming. The only person I didn't hear coming was the president. Okay? I mean,
Right.
you got
Right.
everybody showing up. Okay?
Right.
So that's a huge blessing, my brother.
Correct. Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, Tony, a lot of people don't know the background of of everything that I've been going through. I mean, I'm even back at work. I work a full-time job while I'm doing all this ministry work, all this connected with the DOJs. Dealing with you just dealing with program speaking. I wound up in a hospital. People didn't know that I was I landed in the hospital a couple weeks after from doing all the media interviews and caring for the people. I was lacking sleep. My blood pressure was through the roof. I had to go in, and I'm sitting in the hospital all day trying to get my blood pressure down. And so don't get me wrong. I'm grateful and I'm up to the task. And blood pressure higher now. I'm going out here and do what needs to be done because the people need the help. They need to understand. But I don't think that they know that's what's really available and what's coming their way because each person who I named each group, FEMA. With FEMA comes grants. With
Homeland
Homeland Security
Security and
come multiple grants. I mean, each group that's coming in. Then there's state and local grants that's also available. Once again, all of this stuff is available, and the people haven't been getting it. And I'm taking on the task to make sure that I learn it, hands on, that I can go somewhere and give the training for it, give understanding, and help people. And I'm looking forward to being able to do this, even if I got to work a full-time job still, because I believe that this is what I've been called into. And so I'm going to do what needs to be done.
Okay, my brother. I mean, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit as we close. Tell us where number one, when is this summit going to happen? And then number two, for the churches and the pastors all across the country that's listening to this episode, how can they tap into this and where it can tell us the steps they need to do? Is it reach out to you? What do they need to do to start activating their opportunity here?
With the information that I'm be able to give out, and if they're able to follow the information, then excellent. If not, then my phone number is 412-304-4338. You understand where I'm going with this? I'm willing to help them. I'm going to give out as much information as I possibly can, help them as much as I possibly can. It's going to be held. This is coming up. This is not something that's a year away. This is actually coming in August, where we got a date that's not in stone yet because we're waiting to make sure that the officials can be there. But we're setting the date for August 28th. That's the date that we're looking at. So this is right around the corner of all these things happening. I have to limit it to how many people could come at this point because it's just the aspect of how much the church can hold. But like you say, this is groundbreaking. It's actually a monumental moment for our church. I'm grateful to God to be a part of it. And I want to make sure that any way that someone, once the information is out there and once you start looking online or once whatever it is, any way that I can help, I'm willing to help. I'm even willing to train a team of people so they can go forth and they can also help as well. So, and my thing is with me is if I help you, turn around, help somebody else, and we can get many more people help. It's not about money at this point. It's about let's get people help.
So let me say this as we close it out. With your campaign to teach a man to fish, right? Like you're not just feeding for you, with your campaign to teach a man to fish. How can a Black Executive Perspective help you do that?
Well, I first of all, I'm grateful for y'all having this here interview by far. This podcast is major because this is an opportunity for the information to get out, to let people know what is coming. So people can actually, start trying to find out, how to get this here, because there's time limits with the grants, but there are also different ones throughout the year that you can apply for. And so y'all are doing an amazing job just by having this here interview. It gives people a chance to hear about what is available. A lot of times we can't go after what is available unless we know what is available. So you can only do what you know. So at this point, y'all are doing an amazing job just being willing to follow this through.
Well, thank you, my brother. And look, at the end of the day, we're following your coattails, okay? You are willing to come on and share and talk about this opportunity. And so we thank you. And look, what we're going to do is we're going to put your website on our episode. We'll follow up with you on any information where people can tap into. Is that reaching out to you, reaching out to whatever? So they'll have this information as well so we can keep the ball rolling. And then, after, we're going to definitely have you come back because we want to hear about how many, let's go back to the fish, right? How many people you fed, all right? You were able to feed, all right, with this grant. And then more importantly, my brother, is just that we're so excited and happy that this turned out the way it turned out, Pastor Glenn Germany.
Amen. I thank you once again. And just so I just want to say, look, we're dealing with billions of dollars. We're not just dealing with millions, we're dealing with billions of dollars. One grant alone is worth $700 million. That's just one. And that grant has an address or has 150,000 per address. That's how much someone can get for that one grant per address. And so I just want this information to be put out there. And once again, my only desire is to get people help. We needed help. Nobody responded. I am not going to be what I hated. I'm going to be what I wanted. And so therefore, I want to help. I'm going forth and help people. And once again, I thank you for having me. And may God bless you and your podcast as well.
Well, thank you, my brother, Pastor Glenn Germany. We really appreciate you coming on and sharing this powerful message, my brother. We love you a lot, and we'll chat with you soon. So I think it's now time for
Tony's Tidbit.
And the tidbit today, and Pastor Glenn spoke to it, support is not just in the help we receive, but in the courage we muster together as a congregation, turning trials into testimonies. And you heard that point blank from Pastor Glenn Germany. The trial that they went through, that they're going through, is now going to be a testimony that's going to help so many other churches. So again, we want to thank him for coming on and sharing that powerful story.
I would like to remind you guys to not miss out on this week's segment of Need to Know with Dr. Nsinga Burton. A Black Executive Perspective podcast weekly presents Dr. Nsinga Burton, who dives into timely and critical topics that shape our local and global community. Remember to tune in to gain deeper insights and understanding on issues that matter. You don't want to miss it.
Exactly. I'm telling you, she already put it together. You do not want to miss this episode. Each week is known Need to Know Thursday, so check it out. So now we're going to go into our call to action. This is something that we want everybody to incorporate. Our goal here at a Black Executive Perspective podcast is to decrease all levels of discrimination across the board. So we're looking for everybody to incorporate our call to action, which is called LESS, LESS, and L stands for learn. You want to learn about people that you don't know, different races, different nuances, so you can become more enlightened.
And E stands for empathy. You want to empathize and understand diverse perspectives so you can have a closer connection to your fellow human being.
And after the E, we have S. Now, since you've learned and you have empathy, now you want to share what you learned to your friends and family so they can become enlightened as well.
And our last S is for stop. You want to actively stop discrimination and foster inclusivity. This will help you build a fair, more understanding world. Let's do this every day, and we'll see the change that we want to see. At the dinner table, at the coffee shop, wherever, when you see things not appropriate, you want to stop that person and correct them. Make sure that we practice LESS, LESS, our call to action, every chance you get.
Amen. Amen. So again, thank you for tuning in to another episode of a Black Executive Perspective podcast. You can listen to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on our socials at LinkedIn, X, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok, and Facebook and TikTok at a Black Exec. For our pastor, for our fabulous guest, Pastor Glenn, and I said our pastor, he is our pastor. So for our pastor, Pastor Glenn Germany, we want to thank him for coming. For the best co-host in the industry, Chris B. Reed, who keeps it real. For a person who's one of the top producers on the planet, Noel Miller, who pulls all the strings to make this happen. I'm Tony Tidbit. We love you. We talked about it, and guess what? We're out.
A Black Executive Perspective.